On Second Thought, episode 283, brought to you by our good friends at hook'em.com and Bud Light. Drink 'em if you got 'em. Cedric Golden here with the Duck, Kirk Bohls. And Duck's sad occasion this week with the passing of Longhorn legendary baseball coach Cliff Gustafson. But I'm telling you, man, it's always good to chop it up with three of the all-time greats that are here to give us memories of Coach Gus. Brooks Kieschnick, Greg Swindell, Keith Moreland joining us. This is the most legendary panel of guests we've ever had at once, Doug.
This is Mount Rushmore. I don't know who we're missing. I mean, if this ain't the Mount Rushmore of Texas Longhorns, I don't know what is. So guys, when you first heard the news, Keith, I'll start with you as the senior statesman here. I know you were probably prepared for this because, Gus died at 91. His health hadn't been the best. But what was your first reaction when you heard the news, Keith?
You're always thinking about it, but never prepared for it. Coach was he was such a guy that I really didn't know him, Kirk. The best answer I could do when I played for him, like I did when I came back and coached with him. And Brooks is on the panel. I was on that staff with him, and then I really got to know him and more of the personal stuff away from it. I really didn't know he had that kind of personality. I didn't know he liked to pick the guitar. I didn't know anything about him. So I really got to know him better after I played for him. He was one of those guys that commanded such respect when you played for him, and he wasn't a yeller. I mean, at any capacity. I used to say, if we got in trouble as a team, it was in the clubhouse, and if it went to the dugout, it got worse. It went to the mound, it got real bad.
Wow.
So, but he was not a guy that was a yeller or a screamer. He just commanded his respect. He was very stoic, and that's the way I remember him as a player. Because it's interesting, this panel of guys here are three different sections of his career.
Yeah.
In reality,
Nice.
I was still part of that early part, and then Greg's in that middle where they were just dominant but couldn't quite push it over. 83 they did, but they should have won a bunch right in there. And then to get back, it sort of had fallen on hard times a little bit, and then Keish came in, and you see what happened in that early part of the 90s where it was, again, dominant program. But it was such a difference to get to know him, and my relationship with him really changed when I came back.
He never yelled at you, did he, Greg?
Yell at me?
Yeah, on the mound.
I hope I didn't give him a reason to.
You rarely did.
Yeah. No, when we got the news, it's one of those, like everybody said, you're expecting it because you had been ill for a couple of years, and just when you do finally get the news, it really hurts. But what everybody says now, the man lived 91 years, so it's about a celebration of his life, and that's what everything is about. He brought so many young men together, so many young men that have grown up to be fathers and now grandfathers, and all three of us have children, and just the news that you lose someone that you love like that is terrible. But like I said, it's a celebration of his life, and Coach Gus loved baseball. We loved him, and we're going to miss him.
And he passes, and of course Kirk and I we got to write. We got to write the column, and I knew Kirk would write the personal thing because Kirk was around him a lot. Kirk came in 75, and that's when Keith and that thing got rolling, and so I was. First thing I told Kirk is, I've got Moreland, I got Swindell. Those are the guys I know that played for him, and Kirk knows a lot of others. But I was looking through social media, and man, I came across Brooks Kieschnick, his Facebook page, and wow. And he's got pictures of Gus with his kids, and there's a Longhorn Network, there's a video of Coach Gus being honored, and Brooks is helping him walk to the field, and I was like, I got to get Brooks. Because it's great to get guys from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, three different generations. Mm-hmm. And so Brooks, being the youngest of the three, Could you talk about your relationship with him? Because you got him the latter part of his great coaching career.
Mine extends way away from baseball. You know what I mean? Yes, he was. I mean, obviously a tremendous coach, but more than that, he was a tremendous mentor, and and after I got to play with him, just a tremendous friend, and always someone I looked up to, and always had the right things to say. Always had the great words of advice, and to reiterate what Greg said, yes, I was very sad, but also, I mean, what a great run. So respected and so loved by so many, and throughout the baseball world, but also just throughout throughout life. I mean, everybody he's ever run across have always said what an outstanding and gracious man he was. And that's what I'll miss most, is just the friendship and the fellowship and the camaraderie that we had together.
Kirk, I want to ask you about your relationship with him too, because you were around him a lot. I didn't know him very well, but I got on the beat in 2003, right after Augie had broken through for his first one here. And those first couple of years, I would get a call maybe once a month from Coach Gus. I don't know where he got my number, but I would get a call and he just wanted to break. You gave it to him. I knew it was you. I knew it was you. He wanted to talk ball, and it was just it was cool to hear him break it down, and because he and Augie had some of the same type of philosophies about producing runs and how to play defense and how to play to that big ballpark. And man, it was just always good. And they were never long conversations, maybe 5 or 6 minutes. And he would go, he goes, I'll talk to you again soon. And I was like, well, Coach, it's always a pleasure. But Kirk, could you talk about getting on that beat as a young reporter? And I mean, you're right there with Darryl, and then you get Coach Gus. How cool was that for you?
Well, my first year on the beat, 1975, that was a nice time to break in.
You think?
Maybe the greatest team in Texas baseball history, and Keith was a big part of that. And it was just a little piece of heaven. It was like covering the New York Yankees. It really is, and that's where it was kind of covering the pinnacle of college baseball. Because, USC and Rod Dedeaux had its time there and won a ton of national championships. And but in the era in the 70s and 80s, and then it was like Texas and Arizona State and Miami with Ron Frazier and Ron Polk at Mississippi State. So, I mean, it was just a privilege. You felt like it was a privilege to cover these guys, and it was just so much fun. And I just lived at the ballpark, and nobody loved baseball more than Gus. And back then, you didn't know this, they had spring break, and some of the guys went to the beach, and some of the guys went partying at Fort Lauderdale. Not baseball players. Gus would play doubleheader every single day. It was like 14 games in a week, and it counted as one game on the schedule. And Keith, I don't know why he just played 14 games. I don't know why he didn't play 21 if they just ran out of daylight.
The interesting thing that Kirk's saying right there is, people don't realize how integral not only to changing college baseball and the number of games, and Cliff was very much involved, as Kirk's talking right there, is he also created a ballpark, and he was very instrumental in creating UFC Udish Falk Field.
Sure.
I remember sitting down with him. He asked me after our sophomore year, he says, I was going to Boulder to play summer ball, and he said, hey, I've heard that you may play some outfield. That's a good thing for you, and maybe at the next level and that kind of thing. And I said, that's great. And he says, I want to show you some of these designs and things that we've got going here for Dish Falk. And at that time, it wasn't named that, the new ballpark is what he said. But he was involved in that down to the T. He understood exactly. The great story for me as a hitter, I looked at him, I said, Coach, you said the wind was going to blow out every day. And Kirk will tell you in 75, it was a cold spring, and the wind blew in every single day. It was mammoth. It was like the Grand Canyon.
It really was.
Oh my God!
How many home runs you got robbed?
So many other things that Cliff was involved in he was, one of the elite baseball coaches, but he was very much involved in other things that were going on.
He
I love
was
it.
every single, even the dot races. Remember the dot races, guys? I mean, they always had the dot races, the red, green, yellow, and Gus would always win the dot race, right, Brooks?
Oh yeah, he'd
That's
call up
amazing.
there to find out who was going to win, and then he'd bet you.
He'd have inside knowledge. He did. He had like 25 in a row he got right. So
Oh my
everybody,
God, Kirk, you mentioned Ron Polk, Mississippi State, all-time great coach. Now he had Brooks Kieschnick coming to
yes, he
start
did.
Vegas, but something happened along the way. Brooks, could you share that with our listeners?
I sure will. So throughout my recruiting process, it was basically LSU and Mississippi State were those are the two schools I was going to choose from, and between Smoke Lavelle at LSU, and then I think Steve Smith was at Mississippi State. Then that's exactly who it was. And then really hot on the trail. Then I got to talk to Ron Polk. Never talked to Skip, which was crazy. I only talked to Smoke at LSU. So Ron Polk kind of put me over the edge to go to Mississippi State, and I verbally committed. And Ron Polk was a guy that always likes to fly down and sign his players himself, but they were in the regional. So he had to wait 2 weeks till the regional was over. Well, during that time, I got a call from Darren Gustafson, and it's like, hey, we really want you to come to Texas. I'm like, well, Darren, that's awesome. It's been a lifelong dream of mine to come there. But I said, I've verbally committed to Mississippi State. And he goes, yeah, but you haven't signed anything. I'm like, no, but I'm going to Mississippi State. And he goes, well, I'm sorry to hear that. Mm-hmm. About 5 minutes later, Coach Gus calls, and of course, I'm freaking out, jumping around my room, trying to stay calm. And he told me all the great things about University of Texas. Says, Coach, look, I've always wanted to play for you. I've dreamed of playing for you, and but I'm verbally committed. And he goes, well, if you're going to go buy a Cadillac, and you walk into the Cadillac store, and they say, hey, we'll sell you this Cadillac for $20,000. You go, all right, well, I'll be back tomorrow to buy this Cadillac. You walk down the road, you go to another Cadillac dealership, the same exact Cadillac, they're going to sell you for $15,000. Which one are you going to buy? So I'll probably buy the one for $15,000. He goes, exactly. I'm offering you a better deal. You need to come to Texas. I said, yes, sir. They flew down the next day and signed me.
That is such a great story. And who the hell can find a Cadillac for 20 grand in the 90s? I need to find that dealership.
Coach Gus probably could have.
You're right.
That was his recruiting pitch. I remember he told Richard Wortham once. He had Richard Wortham from Odessa, and one of the greatest left-handers after Greg Swindell in 150 games. And he talked to him about Cadillac and Ford. Which one do you want? And Richard thought, oh my God, I'm going to get a Cadillac out of this. That was long before NIL.
Oh my God, they're driving Lambos now.
And he didn't have a Cadillac, I can tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
I drove 64 Chevy stepside, so I didn't get one either.
And you guys know how tough he could be, because he wanted to win every single game, and he wanted to win inter-squad games. You know how fierce those were, and how long y'all practiced into the night. A lot of times, this was back in the day, said when they had open locker rooms, I could just go in there after every game, between games of doubleheaders, I'd be in there. Sometimes I'd get trapped in there interviewing, and Gus would come in there and talk to the team between games. And I remember one time, Brooks, he came in there and he was riding your butt so hard. I don't know, it may have been like the first 2 weeks, he may have been hitting 180, and he's going, Brooks, I don't know, maybe you can't play at this level. Maybe I was wrong about you. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? And I don't know if you remember that, or if that happened a lot, Brooks, but then after that, I don't know if they could ever get you out the next 3 years.
Well, he basically told me, he's like, if you don't quit playing like a freshman, you won't play here. I'll go, I am a freshman. Not here.
That didn't matter to him, did it?
That's right. That's right. But, Gus had a unique way of taking every player individually, and he knew how to push their buttons and get the best out of every single player, whether it was challenging me, basically telling me I can't do something. I'm like, well, I'll show you I can. Or calling somebody saying, hey, it's going to be okay. Or just saying, hey, I believe in you. Nobody can get you out. Nobody can beat you. And that's the way he told me too. But he made everybody believe in themselves so much that's where he got the most out of players. We didn't always have the best, 5-star players all around the whole deal, but you know how to bring everybody together and make team chemistry like no other.
Yeah, he did. And Greg, I know he never got on you. Now, said when Zeke was pitching, Gus was technically, the coach and the pitching coach, but I think Zeke was really the pitching coach. He was his own pitching coach, and this is a guy, one of the all-time greatest. He and Bert Hooton, easily the best left-hander that ever pitched at Texas. But Zeke, you used to go down to the bullpen on your own late in game. I think he ended up at 12 or 13 saves at Texas. Can you talk about that a little bit? Yeah, your relationship with Gus as far as managing you as a pitcher.
Keisch did the same thing. He'd go down to the bullpen. Yeah. we wanted the ball. We wanted to win. And yeah, there were times where pitched on a Friday, Friday you play 2 games Saturday, and it'd be a close game in the 5th, 6th inning of one of those doubleheader games, and I would just start playing catch. I mean, I would play catch, and I would get ready, and it wasn't really that I was ever hurt. I was just sore and tired, and I wanted to win. And I felt like I was the best person that could be out there to help the team at that time. And he would go ahead and put him in. And one time, Ty always tells a story at A&M where we were trailing, I guess, the entire game, and in the 9th inning, we scored and took the lead. And I was in the bullpen. I was throwing, getting ready, and when the 3rd out was made, I ran out on the field without him even putting me in the ballgame. and Mike Pale, I think, who was pitching, started to get up, and someone stopped him. I don't know if it was Clint Thomas or Coach, and they said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "He's pitching." He goes, "No," and just pointed out to me, who was already running to the mound. He goes, "No, he's pitching." And so Gus just looked to the home plate umpire and goes, "Swindell, 21 in the game." So yeah, I like to pitch. I like the ball, and if he never told me no, so and I want, you want the ball, and I appreciate, and that's the thing I appreciate. He could have given up on me after my first start ever at Texas, but he threw me back in there, and things changed for me my freshman year. So he gave me that opportunity, and without that, nothing else would have happened.
Keith, I got to ask you, I've gone to alumni games over the years, and Swindell was worth the price of admission, just playing every position he can at those alumni games, Clemens throwing at people, and the ones that Gus was at, where you could just see the reverence, and even from Augie, just such respect for Gus. He created a brotherhood and a bond between generational talents from different eras, and we've got 3 on this show today. How important is that to you, those friendships that he helped cultivate? Because you never played with Swindell and you never played with Brooks, but those guys are 2 of your best friends, and they're from different generations.
I've been asked that in the last couple of days, 2 or 3 different times, and I'm really not sure I know how to answer that. Family is the first term that comes together. Families can fight, they can do whatever. I mean, the worst battles I've ever seen in my life were between 2 brothers. Mm-hmm. But when it gets through, they're going to hug each other, and it's going to have a cold beer if they're adult enough to do it, and say, "Hey, man, I'm sorry." That kind of thing. Well, that family unit really started when I was in school. I mean, you would see guys like John Langerhans come back up, David Shaw come through. They would all come, and Coach Gus all allowed them to work out and getting ready to go to spring training and that kind of thing. So you said, "Man, look at that. That guy was a great player here." So it give you that opportunity. And then to him have the idea, and Kirk may know more about it, because I was in Chicago at the time when I first heard about an alumni game, and Coach Gus called me. He says, "Keith, did you come back?" He said, the first thing I said is, "Absolutely. What's the date?" And I didn't worry about contacting any major league club and telling them I was going to go do it. I came back in a full major league uniform, played in the game, and almost killed Swindell. It was just that family and that brotherhood's going to last forever. I mean, there are people that I know. I mean, I've done everything for this program that you can do. I mean, I played here, I've coached here, and I broadcast here. So I know most of the people, and they are family, and we all go out of our way. If somebody needs something, somebody's going to get it done. I mean, Doug Hodo called me this morning, and he had the great idea for first pitch. I mean, I can't even think of the organization here in town.
RBI.
RBI.
Yeah, he got a ball signed by those two guys there, and Bert Hooton he's gone to see. So all of us that have had the opportunity and the great honor to have our number retired, they're gonna, and Coach Gus signed that ball this summer. I was out, but all the guys were in Doug's booth, and that's just that thing to give that back to the community. That's the things that Texas baseball players do.
Wow.
No doubt. I agree with that totally. That's amazing.
Well, that alumni game was the first year of the alumni game was my freshman year. And to see these guys, I mean, that's when you talk about family, is to see these guys that would come back. Zonk, Spike Owen, Roger, Giraldi. We didn't know these guys. We didn't have internet. We didn't have, I mean, we just saw them occasionally. And then to see them in their big league uniforms and saying hi and talking to us, just treating us like normal people. It's like Zonk said, it's a family affair. And I think it'd be pretty neat, since I think Coach Gus started this alumni game. It used to be free, right? Or I think Coach Gus made it $5. Coach Gus made it $5. It wasn't free.
But there'd be 4,000 people there.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think, I mean, how about the Cliff Gustafson alumni game? I mean, I think that would be quite an honor if it was to continue and keep going, because 1984 was the first year of this alumni game, and it's been going on almost ever since.
And you remember that other tradition, Roger Clemens would get out there and he wouldn't brush back Calvin Murray. He would throw it behind Calvin Murray first pitch. So
he did it every leadoff hitter, and then Calvin hit a home run foul to right field, hit a home run foul to left field, and then he hit a triple. And then Roger goes, all right, enough of this. He started throwing everything and struck out the side after that.
Yeah, I turned and pitched the ball to him, and I said, hey, man, this is not mid-season. He just looked at me with that look that I've gotten to know from Roger, and I went, okay.
Okay.
I mean, man, I don't know how much you've thrown yet, but okay. At that point, it became serious real quick.
Wow.
That competitive never leaves. It never leaves. And you know, he was different cat offensively, Keith, as you know. I mean, this era that we're in, where you hit a strikeout or hit a home run, just really he abhors that kind of baseball. A Gus ball, move him up, sacrifice, get that run, score by a balk, however, get the runs across. And he loved to take, because he knew other pitchers didn't have the command of the strike zone that Brooks or Greg have. And so, it wasn't unusual, Texas to win with 12 walks and 4 hits, in the game.
Kirk, just to take that into another perspective, we would drill in live bunt drills when I was there. Now, it might have changed later on with the other guys, but a live bunt drill, we were practicing bunting, and defensively, you were playing it live. So it was it wasn't like a coach is going to roll the ball after the pitcher lobs one in and what you think is a drill. It was live bunt drill. So he said, we're going to be able to play the bunt, and we're going to be able to get the bunts down. And, after a while, I figured out 2-0. I wasn't looking for a sign. I just never turned and looked.
I was going to ask you, did you ever
got away with it because I got a few knocks?
How many times did you bunt at Texas?
If I bunted, it was a bunt for a base hit. I mean, one of the biggest bunts of my life is Ron Polk here. We're talking about that. We were going in 73. Kirk will remember this. We go up, we play Georgia Southern in the first game of the College World Series, and we're tied in like the 5th inning. And I look down when I'm rocking to the plate because Cliff knew I could drag, and we had a man on first and second with nobody out. And I saw the button. I went, okay. So I hit a drag bunt, got a base hit, loaded the bases, and we ended up scoring 2 in that inning, and it helped getting it done. But so that's one that I remember that I did get the bunt sign from Coach Gus. And, he had intricate signs. He had one for sacrifice and one for drag bunt, or one try to bunt for a base hit. He said, so I got it down. And Coach Poker said, I can't believe the number 3 hitter, one of the best hitters in the country. When I met him later, he says, couldn't believe that you were bunting. We were playing back, and Jimmy Morrison, who was their third baseman, played in the big leagues, was a good guy, was a teammate of mine with the Phillies. And he said, "You fooled everybody. It wasn't a great bunt, as Kirk probably remembers. It wasn't great, but it worked."
You got the element of surprise when you got a 410 hitter laying down a bunt. I wondered if you ever got the take sign.
Yeah, I did my freshman year. That's why I stopped looking. He'd come back to me. He says, "Keith, you got to look at me after every pitch." I worked at 2-0, especially my sophomore and junior year. I didn't turn and look. And Rick Bradley would hit behind me a lot, and Rick could hit.
He can mash.
And he said, "Well, you just never turn and look." I said, "Well, I'd look right at him." I said, "Don't. Just work the 2-0 count. Don't turn and look." Because I guarantee you, Keish didn't.
Well, I had to look at
I was on that staff.
You had to look because you're a bad lefty, right?
Yeah, I did get one bunt sign my career, and it was 1992 against VCU. Matt Williams, the lefty, was up there. I missed it. I ended up fouling two of them off and then getting a base hit up the middle. But that's the only bunt sign I got. VCU.
I remember Tolentino had a great drag bunt single at Omaha to help him win a game. But yeah, wasn't his take sign just looking at you though?
Yes.
Or hands in the back pocket.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
His hands were always in his back pockets.
Well, that's if it's cold. If you took them out, then take.
That's because everybody had the take till strike one.
That's right.
Hey, Cedric, one time he gave the take sign to Mark Griffin at Omaha. It was a 3-2 cal. And he gave him the take sign. True story.
He did Chuck Abernathy, too. Abernathy goes, "Where were you on that one, Cliff?"
He did. I was on that staff again.
Yep.
And I couldn't believe when I saw it.
Oh.
I think he forgot.
Wow.
And the other thing is, he's the only guy. The other point, I love having fun and telling stories because we're, like I said, we're in 3 different eras of his coaching career. But he had such a great knack of picking that one guy in that one spot that probably never was involved and never thought he would be involved in the game. We're in a regional in Arlington at the old Texas Rangers ballpark playing Louisiana Tech, and bases loaded, 0-2 count. He pinch hits Mark Griffin with an 0-2 count. He takes the hitter out of the game and puts Mark Griffin in the game. Mark fouls one off. And then the next pitch, he gets severely jammed, but it just enough to get over the pitcher's head and falls, and everybody is safe. And that extends the inning that we score two more runs and we win the game. But the ability to pull somebody off the bench with an 0-2 count, and then the next day he would plug somebody else in. And then when I was on his staff with Brooks, we were at Rice, and Clay has not had a hit in 2 weeks, Clay King. And then all of a sudden I come to the ballpark and I look at the lineup and he's in the lineup. And I'm going, he says, I went over to Coach Gus. I said, "Coach, I was fixing to start throwing BP." And he goes, "I just got a feeling." What did he get, 3 that day?
Yeah.
And all 3 of them drove in runs. I mean, he just had that knack,
that touch,
to know who was the right guy at the right spot. And boy, that's uncoachable. I don't know how he found it.
Yeah. And he was such a student of the game. I remember also at Omaha, y'all were playing LSU, and Ben McDonald was on the mound.
Oh man, big Ben.
And y'all would whip the tar out of these big name pitchers. It didn't matter. You bring in the heat, you're going to pay for it. It was those little crafty left-handers like Fullerton had that they gave y'all fits and everything. But I remember when y'all beat Ben McDonald and just blistered Ben. I don't know how long he lasted in the game, but Gus told me afterward that he was reading his pitches. He was tipping his pitches, and whether he held the ball lower in the glove or upper in the glove, Zeke, I don't know if you remember anything like that, but he just studied tendencies so big, and you never know how he's going to use it to win a game.
I think that dude beside you on the screen would know better than me.
Well, he's the guy that taught me, and I was really good at it. But those are little secrets. I don't know if we want to put out there or not. But
you don't.
He never whistled, and we didn't beat any drums or anything. But he would sure tell you, "Hey, watch this. When he does this, this is happening." He's the guy that and I use that later on all the way through the rest of my career in the big leagues. If guys are going to tip and they're not going to change, I'm going to use that information. It's my job as a player to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
He hated losing. Zeke, and what was it like 84, 85? You guys finished second 2 years in a row. And how hard was that on Gus? Because, you're coming off the high of 83. That was the golden decade for Texas baseball. But those were tough losses at Omaha, right?
84, we weren't even ranked preseason. I mean, they had lost a lot from the national championship team and didn't have any starting pitching come back. Boudreaux and Phillips, they were coming back. Ruffin, he was throwing balls on the screen. So I mean, we really didn't have much to start that year. But we gelled, we played well, and yeah, that was probably tougher being the freshman year and against Eddie Delzer and Augie and Cal State Fullerton. But that was tough. But I think 85 was probably the worst as far as not being able to digest it, because we were ranked first in the nation coming out of the chute. We were good. We had a lot of returners. We had starting pitching. We had everything. And just get to Omaha and lose a close game 2-1 to Miami. And then the next day they had to beat us twice. And the next day beat us 10-6. So yeah, that was the tough one, knowing that you are the best team out there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I mean, Mississippi State, Thunder and Lightning, they can think whatever they want, but we were the best team out there. And we should have won that one. So that was tough. And I think it's tougher now to look back and think, wow, there could be 83, 84, 85. There could be three in a row on that board out there. And that's what more than anything. And but the joy and the pressure that we had going to Omaha and playing as a team and playing for Coach Gus, it was those were tough championships to lose. Don't know what it feels like to win one like Zonk. I did as a coach, but Coach Gus, he didn't take them too hard, but 85 was rougher than 84.
But the wins, the memories, the good memories outweigh the bad ones for sure. He won over 1,400 games, 22 Southwest Conference titles. He coached 35 first-team All-Americans, including the 3 that we have on the screen. Such a pleasure to chop it up with you guys here today. We're going to miss Coach Gus, but we still have the stories. And we so appreciate you taking time out to share some of the best memories of a true Longhorn icon. Guys, we appreciate it today.
Absolutely. Honored to be here.
Honor.
You guys are Longhorn legends and giants. And just, it was a privilege and a blessing to cover all 3 of you. And you just gave so much to Longhorn Nation that was one of the best part of my sports writing career, is just chronicling the 3 of you and you guys teammates, because Texas, like I said, they are the New York Yankees of college baseball, and you are the pinnacle. And we appreciate you all so much.
We appreciate y'all as well. Thank you so much. Love you, Coach.